Professor Elliot set down his pencil, took off his rimless glasses, and applauded over guffaws and outbursts. It's not like he's Geppetto and the character's Pinocchio. The character's real, however, it's really fictional. It's about the founding fathers' Republican principles. The Republic is a book by Cicero or Cato or Judas. Um, but if you remember, Socrates is in it. So Catholicism matters a lot in due course. John F. Kennedy was Catholic, of course. He was the first Catholic president of the United States of America in the sense that he was symbolically the president. Jackie Onassis was the elected president in the sense at the time they knew they elected her to do the job of the executive orders of the president to type them in and so on and so forth. They were a partnership, so legally it worked. Um, you have the background of who the writer is. This is a thesis, right? This is a novella of a thesis that was presented to two professors, and now I'm reading it out loud. So I don't owe you, what it is. So I'll continue. That night, a cold night in October, one abnormal even in Virginia, right, which is where the school is, we went, not South Carolina, we went to a party at our captain Alan Sanchez's house, again on the basketball team. Basketball was the thesis, playing quarters and euchre in the kitchen is Tony and Alan's younger brother. Does Lee Chong have anything to say? Richie Sanchez shot darks. Tom and I drank a six pack of Genesee Lager while a group of girls on an oversized leather couch played Mario Bros. Tony's father worked for a record label in Red Hook and traveled to Kyoto and Tokyo 4 times a year. The Nintendo, his father's gift. He failed to pin three of the girls to the wall with an outsized arm. Tom nodded each time, taking a drink as if Tony had left for something, restraining us somehow with his back. Then, after belittling Richie and Alan Sanchez's high school in Canal Fulton as a congregation of liquor stores and gas station riffraff, Tony slapped Ricky's wrist, this clasp of his wristwatch fading on the floor. Ricky didn't have anything in his pockets. In ignited fiction, he pitched the watch. So you could stop here and see how dense this is. But the point is, from a fiction standpoint, there's four people now. There's Tony, Ricky Sanchez, the main character, and there will be one more. If Tony's bearing had convinced Professor Elliot a tiger can disguise his choices, and here we kind of make a leap. This is called poetic fiction, or not nonsense based on Alice in Wonderland. She's like, "Oh no, am I getting bigger or smaller?" He certainly woke up he certainly woke up Tom and I from the idle logic of pride. We took a bottle of Johnny Walker and pitched a tent at Willets Creek along the curling rain and bites of snow. You know, the small trail outside of the library at Emory, snow and a lone lamp that shone toward Whitehall like a lighthouse. The second leitmotif, we bulleted a cosmic pretense. Tony offered an apology, different than an inverse psychology, but a leitmotif that exists or doesn't. Two horses gabbing, shoveling sans gloves, yet such a strange something grabbed a hold of Tom, a nobody in general. Tom's his roommate. He sat down and pushed his fingers along his knuckles, then spread them along the rubber trail. The dying leaves surrounded over and over around them, the embattled twigs bogged in the water. The narrator. He spoke as if not to be overheard, repeating what we thought must have been a Buddhist chant, then suddenly turned to Tony, both hands on the rail. It's always the fisherman's net with him. It looks like I was telling the truth, Ricky gloated. I've got an easy soul, rest your mind. Between them, sprouted half charred berries, but appeared as puzzle pieces to a jar to fit along with one another. I sensed Tom's disappointment as a tearing voice sank our silence and begged to ask if wild horses were any more deciduous than elk or bison, or even the log in the creek. Spectacle made Tom grave, yet happiness rejoined in him. Ricky passed the bottle, and Tony turned his back until Tom was drunk. The silence broke as Tom laughed, a puddle chiming. So a puddle doesn't chime, right? So a chime. So I could have said, as Tom laughed, a puddle churning. I looked up at the light for the first time, and in a river under the rain and snow, a metal flecked white was unearthed and turned green, the roughness of a diamond, and then frogs leaping up and over the puzzle itself. An adorning pearl slid through the silky black sky, foreshadowing. Between my eye, between my eye hand, its upstretched brow. Soon after, I noticed tapes pile up on Tom's desk and began to overhear string quartets and pianos concertos from his Walkman. What's with the classical music? I asked one morning in our common room, whisking 2 eggs. That's my favorite line. He deliberated over a long pause. It's practically my mother tongue. I filled the skillet, poured a glass of milk, and turned the stove on low. What do you think it's meant to the founding fathers? I asked. He took off his backpack, sat down, and retied his shoe, as a feather fell out from a hole, probably a correction to the order of the day. How's that different than Van Halen? I asked, pressing the foam with my spatula. Oh, I think it's all a little big brother. It does lump together, I said. Though I don't get bored, Tom said. Why not? I asked. I think the narrator's name is Andrew. In the second story, it was something like John, and in the first story, it was just I. This is I again. So the second story is third person. This is first person. Witching a restraint one must have kept a revolutionary diet, such as a farewell. Again, I said. Tom's neck creased as it turned. His brow calibrated his eyes. I suppose the shadow does lengthen to a perfect point, he said. His hand unfurled, his forefinger and thumb erect, as we all do it together. I even forgot the quote there. I hear you, but they probably saw those guys live in Vienna. A master keystroke, he said. I'd edited this a million times. I'd become, I became a second entry, a silhouette of American history, and only in college, a flower, the province the same as any castle. He continued, just a faint and Orientalist facade, the clandestine operation of zoos and fish feeders and guile of an electric simile. It harkens back to Ringo in The Unvanquished with his friend Bayard when they wake up in a dream and go to the railroad tracks. And Grandma Millard says, Go. I poured scrambled eggs in a plate and peppered in some salt, took the ketchup from the fridge, sat down. They're still having breakfast after a night of getting drunk. For the ketchup to release from the bottle. How could this be 50 pages? You ever have braces? Nah, you. Nope. What's Orientalism? Reverse psychology, a flat tennis ball. I swallowed a bite and put my arm around the top of the chair and looked at Tom. You spread rumors about Jesus Christ, he said. It is ancient, but take the Farewell Symphony or the Rite of Spring by Tchaikovsky or Feuerbach. They're beautiful, though not atypical or unusual or aplomb. They're, in fact, normal. So Jefferson, he probably hides his eyesight. Washington cries a child not begun yet. If only the sun would disappear, everything would be perfect. Madison picks from his eye, and John Quincy Adams fidgets as much as he's frustrated. Faster than before, he says after the Kreutzer Sonata. and Benjamin Franklin records Beethoven's ninth. While it's the proper response, your opinion hasn't changed. The Vietnam War carried from an oculate distance. The space shuttle Columbia launched in April, so it's the 1980s. In his debut, Cal Ripken Jr. scored as a pinch runner. 3 days after the final, Muhammad Ali retires. The Great Wave crashes, a new wave was cresting. In the rip current, some of us wade, others make for land. By graduation, the Raiders upset the Redskins in the Super Bowl. That's 4 years from now. 3 years after Cal Ripken's Jr. debut, indeed, Michael Jordan scored 20 in a game at the Forum in Englewood, not Spain. A group of martyrs wailed from the nose of a storm until the national conscience, again from Reagan's paper at Iowa, confabulated a crevice, the story we recently read, of modernity. Well, the presentation. Each of us had the composure of a sixth man. Back to basketball, an adjectival longing. We all kept our wind for the second half. We blew off steam. We all kept our second wind for the second half. We blew off steam in a hall recital, practice come office max, heckling the students at Akron, picking up packages. Coach Bellicose, the pride of short arms and the grimace of aspiratio, the appearance of a cocked hat, striped collared shirts, a Belova gold watch, and pleated khakis, pecking like a picadillo, contracts to teach the Army's first public choice economics course. At Sunday dinners, his kids, Max and Katrina, the coaches, practiced piano while his German wife, Heidi, projected a windy lever. He only ever said one thing: outweigh the pain. Coach Bellicose invented new defenses on the fly, and Ricky was his litmus test. Every time Ricky looked comfortable, he got turned. I suppose he's Luke. On offense, he was trapped, kicked with cleats, and put down. Ricky had thin, red gelled hair and a broad spin, like a hula hoop for Tony. I substituted for Ricky and held the baseline. After one or two dribbles, I shot the gap. Coach Bellicose pulled Ricky aside during dinner, put his hands in his pockets, and grinned harshly and austerely. On the second plate of spaghetti or flat bean stew, Ricky emphasized parts of the floor without marking any territory. We defended man to man, but in the last quarter of the season, opponents confused our assignments for a zone. We had a losing record in the regular season, but never lost by more than 10 points. So they're losers. Our scorer was a senior named Malachi Brewer, who took photographs with the click of a half smile. I knew it was Mark, but that's not true. It might have been Elijah, Isaiah. There aren't many African Americans that are in the Bible, though there are chapters devoted to them. It's quite anonymous. He had a mole on the right side of his eyebrow, the right edge of his right eyebrow, and he wore his hair like a red square lampshade. He rolled marijuana spliffs, carried change in his pockets, and answered his door after midnight in boxers, a white t shirt, and belt fastened under his armpit, the echo of the birds from his boombox under a comforter, with the state of California flag. Our most popular set play was a double pick and roll with Malachi and Tony. Tony dove to the rim. I went sideways, and Tom flared for a jump shot. Coach Bellicose thought at the end of a set play, you wanted each player attacking from their position. The night before the league championship, he served bologna sandwiches, a wheel of cheese, and ginger ale. Indeed, I played soccer for a coach much like this. He played at Indiana. Harrison Ford might have played at Indiana. The Kelly schools where my best friend went to school. It was also the site where I had a major soccer play after I sat on the bench the entire year. Max squealed as he kicked the black and white rubber soccer ball over a couch and collided with an open composition book Heidi was holding, and the notes of Edelweiss fell to the floor. The soccer ball rolled under the piano. Katrina's orange fingernails, painted earlier by her mother, covered her eyebrows, crying. Tony went 4 for 4 to start the game, and we held the vaunted Monarch front lines in check. We were up 36-30 at halftime. The game was in Norfolk, and the home. We'll stop there.